Good afternoon, everybody. Glad you guys are still here. So I'm Sarah Summers. I'm a user experience evangelist at Microsoft. And you guys are here for the sketching prototyping talk with SketchFlow in the expression blend. So I'm going to start off with a little movie clip, but I'm going to cue it up for you guys. Who here knows who Julius Schulman is? Yeah, so that rather famous mid-century modern piece of architecture that, you know, not very many of us will ever in our lifetime see in person, he captured all of the modern architecture for years from all over the world. And it was the way that I got to access it and the way most people will be able to see this kind of architecture. So this clip is from the documentary Visual Acoustics. We're going to see Julius talking at the Neutra House.
See the mountain coming down behind the house? That's right there. So we have here an almost sacred view of Southern California. Here's the same view with more landscaping in it. Show it how it developed from one year to another, from 1936 to 37, 38, and 39. She constantly sent back the pictures to me, describing what she felt I could do to improve the photography and or to honor the photography I did. But then, look what Mrs. Miller gave up to allow this horrible building come in here. I asked Mrs. Miller at that time about the property next door. Oh, no one's ever going to build there. But look what's there now, a pile of junk. I told Catherine to buy some charges of dynamite. So there's the story of our lives. So I'm serious. You have to plan ahead.
So I think that's the passion and integrity we all have for the work that we do. But it's hard. We've all seen these good time moments, shipping prototypes, absolutely outrageous deadlines, waterfall, come on. It's painful. And of course, Office Space is my favorite quote, right? Every single day that you see me is on the worst day of my life. You know, yeah, when it's like a hell project, that's exactly how I feel. And, you know, sometimes you have your old guard boss. It's like, let's get the paperwork going and have your meeting. And the spec. Sometimes the requirement list is questionable. Some legacy decisions, some stuff that the competitor has. We don't have a lot to work with sometimes. And then my favorite, because I was really good at the pitch. But even if you're good at it, this happens. And then the rework. So when I was looking through my files to look for information about this talk, I went through all my old work because I did 13 years of software design, and I worked at agencies, and I did websites, everything from commercials to hardcore software. And in each folder, I think the average was 16 versions. So that's not very effective use of anybody's time. And for a long time, I was a visual designer. And so you're making it look pretty. And then, of course, the kind of conversation that you have, because you're doing that first, goes about like this. That's not a conversation, right? Like, this is not the innovation conversation that you should be having. And the problem is, you can do this forever. You can tweak fonts forever, but that's not, you know, yeah, because then you got to go do that. And then what I always try to do is work hand in hand with my dev team. So of course, you know, if we are playing with interactions and pans and swipes and everything, and we're trying to, you know, not duct tape everything together, you know, if it looks really pretty and you're doing that, yeah. And it's not like we didn't try, right? We tried everything to push back against like the deadlines and the old guard management and all of that stuff. You know, because if we didn't have to worry about that stuff, then we wouldn't have had, you know, the need for Agile or any of the other stuff that we really, you know, tried to take some of the control back into the process and the products we're making. So how does it get better? What can we do differently? How can things start changing so we can make things that we actually care about and we wouldn't mind showing to other people or even our friends? Is it better process? Happier coworkers, more collaboration? What is it? You know, the actual time for innovation? In truth, it's all of them. But you're gonna have to break some eggs because you can't just sit there and hope that you get that stuff. And you know, a lot of the conversations today like start pivoting around like user-centric design, innovation, experience design, and prototyping. So hear a lot of these words, but how do we do it? And the nice thing about prototyping is it actually enables and allows us to do all the things above it, right? It's the foundation of, you know, getting us up that ladder towards innovation. So last fall, I went out and I talked to a lot of developers and designers too. And of course, these are the top questions, right? How do I convince my boss we can do this, you know? And how can we make the time? You know, we don't have time. Nobody has time. And so, you know, my response is, you know, don't ask for permission. You're gonna have to just go do it. Take a 2-hour lunch, sneak out with some pens and some ideas and some paper, and yeah, just don't ask for permission. Just do it. So, and if you want to start bringing other people in, you can start doing some covert testing in the office. I've done this before, and people actually really enjoyed it, and then they talked about it for a while afterwards. So if this is your office, pretty snazzy, stick some prototypes out there. Put some Sharpies down, you know, some sticky notes, and just ask for people's opinion. Get people engaged, and then they'll start to actually care and become interested in the prototyping and the sketching stuff that you're doing. And it's really sort of hands-off too. It's just there. Also in the conference room, there's always that like late person. That means you're sitting there for an extra 10 minutes. So like, you know, put that down on the conference room table and people will be happy to have like a distraction, something to play with. And you know, people actually really do like it when you ask their opinion. So if you were looking at my paper prototype there and you were literally mortified, like I can't do that, I don't even touch pens, that's for kids. Trust me, you're inherently human, so you can do all this stuff. Visual language is baked in, we all have it. You know what you like when you see it, that's huge. And it's also in every single profession. Even the stuff that seems incredibly complicated and different from what maybe we do, but it really isn't. So say, for example, all the genetic testing. So in the 50s, we pulled down all this, you know, letter data. And so this is the, you know, genetic makeup, and it took us forever to piece it all together because it looks like this, right? It looks like a string of code. But then we had to kind of start grouping them together, which allowed us to do this with it and put it on the helix and understand that relationship one step further. And then that helped us describe what that is, right? An organism. But it also lets us know what that is. It's the same process. We have to visually understand what we're working with, all that complexity, and that shows us what we get and what we actually have and what we're looking at. So in essence, the prototyping does show you where you are going, and it teaches you how to get there. We can all come in with our guesses and our ideas, but the process of doing it teaches us what we need to be doing and what's the right solution. And not only does it help us find the right stuff, but it exposes all those problems early. So instead of that last minute thing that's like, oh crap, you find that way early, and it isn't so time, you know, devastating and time consuming. And, you know, try it. Let your prototype be your spec doc, right? Give it a whirl. See if people like start working with that and utilizing it. And, you know, the prototype also lets you tell your story and show the value. So you don't have to do all of that talking, right? It just, you know, it tells the story for you. Because, of course, at the end of the day, all that hand waving, all that stuff that we do to get our point across, you know, no demonstration is really ever sufficient. Only interaction will do. Because the real sort of enjoyment and most of the things that we make is how it feels, the timing, the behaviors, the reactions that we get, what it gives us back when we touch it, when we interact with it. So what's a prototype? If it's not a learning tool, well, it is, but we also have to get it in front of the users, because then we can take our assumptions and really know. So when I think about testing and doing research on users, it really is sort of test, observe, record, so you can see, know, and share. And you have to share it, especially with stakeholders, so they understand why you're making the decisions that you're making, so you don't have to go back and justify over and over again the choices that you've made. So what else does that give us? Gives us some good intent, right? Keeps us, our hearts in the right place, that customer focus. And then, of course, it demonstrates that clear value to the stakeholder. And always remember, like, you know, clients don't often want to pay extra for this stuff, and I just sneak it in anyway. But the truth is, this is actually business value. So if you have a tough client and you know you're going to need the user research, pitch them with the business value, because it's absolutely business value, because it's what the customer wants, focused, and what the business needs to provide to the user. And so what's the best case scenario for testing? Oh, you know, you want to have super users. And super users are the people that have hacked into the software, made all this different stuff, and like made it work for their own work system. You want to go talk to those people. They have all the best ideas. And if you don't have super users, users are great too. And then you want to video and record, right? You want to observe, because a lot of times if you're just doing a simple A to B test, you don't know what the hesitation was. You don't see what they were doing before they clicked, which sometimes tells you everything, because a lot of times, you know, you have the right idea. It's just that, you know, the button needs to be like 4 pixels to the right, like easy. And then, of course, it allows you to get all that data collection that lets you, you know, really justify, again, what you're doing and showcase it. So it's the best case there, right? Super users. And if you don't have them, other users. And if you don't have those, test on the people around you, right? Don't walk over to the dev department, art department. Like, you know, seriously, Rick in accounting would probably love a break. You know, take it to one of the sales guys, show it to somebody in your office. It will literally take 3 minutes. And then also observe, right? It's critical. You won't know it unless you see it, and you won't be able to tell anybody else about it unless you videotape it. And of course, this is a great book, right? Remote Research. I recommend it if you guys are looking at ways to do research and you're not going to have the budget and you need to do it remote. And we're also going to look at some kind of bitchin' ways to do that in SketchFlow. And then the data collection stuff is great too because, you know, if you need to show the numbers, you have them. You know, it also keeps it super simple if you just want to test 2 different concepts or 2 different styles of how you might display the navigation or something. And we'll look at that in SketchFlow too. So what's the deal with user tasks, right? Why does it matter? Well, Bing's pretty important because they've basically taken the idea that search is just a form that you put words into and made it an entire, experience where they know what you want to go to a search engine to do something. You're actually trying to do something, whether it's, find a flight or better, should I buy this flight right now? Is it going to be cheaper tomorrow? I'm going to be pissed. So that's the way we should start thinking about not only testing, but building our product. And then just start easy. Pick the top 3 things that you want to either A, test to see how the users react, or the top 3 things that the users are going to want to do. And, just really, for your own sake, just keep it really simple. Just look at the top 3 desires that people are going to want to, they land on your site, what do they need to do? And then, of course, always when you're working with people, keep those questions really open-ended and simple, because what you don't want to do is test something great, ask the wrong question, and throw it away because they struggled with it, but because the question was difficult. So let's do some demo stuff. So for the folks that haven't really had a lot of exposure to SketchFlow, I'm going to do a little quickie intro and walk you guys around the park a little bit. And then I'll show you a great little A/B test. And then also a multivariate test, which is a neat way to take different blocks of content and pull data from those blocks. So if you have a lot of complexity per page, you can chunk that out pretty easily and see what's working and what's not. So how many people have at least seen Blend before? Okay, everybody, right, almost? Okay, a couple people that would like to at least just go around the block real quick. Anybody? Okay, all right, good, cool. So down here at the bottom, we've got the SketchFlow map. So this is literally just a visual interpretation of what you're building. And then you can also create off of the map. So you can do a whole bunch of things visually within SketchFlow and Blend that you wouldn't be able to do normally. And over here we've got a bunch of sketchy styles. So blend comes with a bunch of pre-baked stuff that you can kind of put on there and run with, so you don't have to sit and you know, massage all the details all the time. And of course, SketchFlow makes that even easier because it's all this really great, simple, sketchy style. So in here, some people have made some really great quickie mock-ups. And so I'm going to pull the web browser one out here. So, you know, a lot of the times, like on Coplex and a bunch of different places, you know, if you're going to build something out, go check to see if there's styles or things that are already, you can, you know, just load in and go. And I'm going to put a little sketch in here because really, if you just want to start sharing ideas, concepts, something that you worked on really quickly over lunch and put it in there and send it out to your team, I mean, this is perfect. And let's go back in here too, because it's also really incredibly easy to wire this stuff up. So I threw this global nav into a component screen, and I'll tell you why. Because when you go in and make changes to it, I'm going to navigate to that screen and rename it. It globally does that. So, you know, imagine you've built your project, right? And the global nav is on every single page along with the footer and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you need changes, you do it once. That's huge. And let's run this too, because the sharing player part is really exciting as well. So, of course, all you need is a browser. So you can share this with anyone, and they just need to actually have a browser. And so this is the player, and so this is where you can provide feedback, sketch on top of it, you know, and have basically a running conversation with all of the stakeholders, your team, everybody that you would want to sort of show off what you've done and, you know, share this stuff with. And so, of course, here's our, you know, working browser, right? And our little mock-up that just simply explains what we were thinking about. So we're going to add some feedback to it. So I'm going to say I want the text over here, and I want, you know, these items to be closer to the selector box. And then I'm also going to reiterate that here in text. And so, of course, you can, you know, you can add as much context as you like. And then export the feedback. I'm just going to toss this on the desktop. Okay, and then the super nifty thing, I'm going to pull down the window that shows us the feedback. And we're going to go grab that feedback. And so if you notice, you know, if you're building a big site and you're having people review lots of it, you know, it gives you that little light bulb. So you don't have to go to every single page, you know, frantically looking for, you know, the feedback that you need to go correct. It shows you visually. And so there it is. There's, you know, it's laid on top. What I drew is right on top, and then, you know, the feedback is on, you know, is in the feedback panel. And we can read, you know, what I wrote. And again, if you're getting a bunch of different feedback, it's all in chronological order, so then it's just this big conversation stream. You know, it's basically its own project management. And then my favorite, of course, I mean, other than the fact that you can bring in Photoshop files, Illustrator files, is the exporting to Word. So I'm not a big fan of busy work, and writing up a bunch of progress docs, spec docs, that was never fun. And of course, if you have a company template, you just click on that, and we're going to include the feedback because I want my boss to see that we didn't just make this stuff, we actually checked to make sure everybody was happy with what we'd made. And of course, the feedback pulls down, you know, everything, all the images, the map, and everything that you've done. So, yeah, it's a big part of the day that, yeah, free up to actually prototype. Okay, I'm going to move on and show you guys the A/B test. And to do that, I can do that right in the SketchFlow map. The little caret is the start screen. And so all I have to do if I want to keep moving this project along and go to something else that I'm testing, you just change the start screen. So I'm going to set this to start, and the caret moves over to the A/B test. And this is nice too, because if you want to do a few different things at once and walk people you know, through like different parts of the prototype, I mean, it's incredibly seamless to do. And so what I designed here in this test is two different scenarios. A lot of times when you're making something, making a site, a product or a service site, a lot of times, you know, marketing wants it to be really marketing driven. And oftentimes what happens is people want to figure out more about the products or the services. So that's, this is a really kind of nice, simple, thumby way to make sure you're on the right track as far as like what, you know, what you're leading with. So I'm going to run this again so we can look at how we would go about testing. And so what I did here is I set up a quick click-through for 3 different questions. And so these areas are hot, right? And it's going to register the click, and then we can go see the results afterwards. So, you know, click on what you would, you know, which site you would use to find the service plans. You know, upgrading your phone, comparing phone models. Okay, we're all done. And so as many times as you could do that, you can pull down all this, you know, all the data, all the results. And so all of a sudden, you know, I mean, that didn't take me obviously very long at all to build. All of a sudden, you know what kind of direction you need to go in. Do you need to lead with the products or the services? A little less, you know, marketing shtick. And let's go to the multivariate one now. And so I'm going to show you guys the quadrants that I'm calculating, right? But the multivariant's brilliant because, I mean, you can put as many on there as you want. I mean, if you just want to separate, you know, the differences between, you know, 2 different kinds of navigation or 2 different kinds of information, I mean, you can have 6, you know, you can have 6 different blocks in there. And so this is when, especially for multivariate, this is when you really want to, if you can, break out the video camera, go observe them, ask them questions directly, because when you're talking about adding, like complication or, really exploring like a fuller prototype, you're going to want to see what they're doing. And you're going to want to see those sort of micro moments where they're hesitating or they're not sure what they're looking for or where they need to go. And so again, all these clicks are calculated from each area. Of course, as you videotape, and of course you can do it remotely too, right? You can record screen and do it on the phone. There's absolutely nothing wrong with calling a user on the phone. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. And again, then you've got all that data pulled down. And you can, collect and iterate this stuff as long as you like till you're happy with what, with what you're seeing in the direction. And I'm going to share, I've got this code, so you can do the quickie A to B test or the multivariate stuff. I've got this code, and it's all commented out so you guys can read and understand where, where it goes in the file, what you need to do with it. And I'll put that up on my site, and I'll also give you guys this project too to play with. But this stuff is for you, because I want you guys to go play with it, make it better, do something amazing with it, and then tell me about it, like share it with me so I can check it out and write about you and put you on my blog. So questions. Let's start with questions, because this is like the user testing stuff, and the SketchFlow stuff is usually when we have great questions. And please use the mic. Help yourself. Come on in. He's not on.
So the data that you collected, that you showed on the final screen, was that sent via something, or did you have to, are you just counting that if the person, for example, if it's a remote test, would you be screen capturing that last screen with the data of the number of times that they clicked, or is that being stored somehow and transmitted to you? Or?
Yeah, so it's being stored, and it's super easy to do. So for these quadrants, all the things that were hot on these quadrants were all tagged, right? So if you go in, this is a button, it's hot, and you pop down here to the common properties to tag. It all has its own unique tag. So that's quadrant 2. So that's all you have to do. So anything that you take in that block, in that multivariate block, anything that's hot that you want the user to click on, you just tag it. And then that's how you're sort of like that. I mean, it's a really simple way to suck down that data. Does that?
Actually, my question was more of in the SketchFlow player, they go through and they click all of those things, and then you have the results screen at the end that shows that. How do those results get sent to you as the tester? Do you save them to a file? Do you screen capture that last screen?
I see. Yeah, no, you can.
So
I mean,
you can do something with the data.
Right. You can pull down your results, and I'll put that on the site.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
I have 2 questions. The first is, for what I do, I have a need to do prototyping with higher fidelity, and I don't mean higher visual fidelity. I mean like testing users in terms of them working with data and seeing that data propagate through as they go from screen to screen. So does SketchFlow have that capability? Is it possible to do that sort of thing?
Well, give us a specific example.
So the most recent one I can think of is so I do like mailing related stuff.
Okay.
So we prototyped a postage meter screen, for example, where someone's running their mail. Well, one of the things that you might see on a postage meter screen is a counter. How many envelopes have I just put through the postage meter? So that counter, whatever that counter says, if it says 62, if they go to do something else on a different screen, that other screen has to know okay, in this user's mind, there are 62 envelopes that just passed through, so let me show something accordingly.
And they've also switched what they were doing, like task-wise. Yeah, that's like super complicated, right? So yeah, I mean, what I would say is you want SketchFlow and you want to record that because it sounds like there's like physicality happening, and you're going to want to video that.
Oh, absolutely. But just in terms of the tool itself, I've used other prototyping tools that are that can't do that sort of data propagation very well.
Right.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand that as a prototyping tool, can it do that with the data?
Right. So can it handle and understand and articulate like live data, basically, right?
Not necessarily live data. I mean, it can be fake data.
Right.
So it can be like pretend there's no machine yet, but
Yeah.
we're just trying to understand, like, you know, somebody else is working on the machine itself, the physical part, but we're working on the screens that are going to go with that kind of a thing.
Okay.
So we kind of tell the user, okay, pretend there was a postage meter here, and sometimes we'll mock it up, right? So they've got a
Right.
film core model, and we go through the motions of putting envelopes through. So in terms of our prototyping, we don't always have to accurately match what a machine is doing. We just have to make the user think
It's doing
it has to make
it.
sense, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, actually, SketchFlow is pretty great with data. And I'll show you, like, I'll come over when we're done, and I'll show you a whole sort of data resources scenario where you can kind of pull in anything you want, and they can interact with it in instant.
Okay, cool. And my other question is, do you have recommendations if you're just getting started with SketchFlow? Is there books or trainings or other resources that you would recommend?
Yeah, there's a couple books out there. The one that I recommend is Dynamic Prototyping with SketchFlow. It's a good book, and it's for designers, and it makes it easy to sort of like pick up SketchFlow. If you like tutorials, there's a tutorial section. If you kind of want to look at a real world scenario, there's a real world scenario that can walk through that takes you from the concept sketch phase all the way to a final product. So, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Hi, hello. I am not new to user testing, but I am to SketchFlow.
Okay.
So my question is does it have the ability to record, let's say, users' mouse movements and what they clicked and things like that, to record the session and send it back to you for a review?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, it doesn't have like a built-in like recording. I think you would need to, be able to screen record. You'd want to use screen record and SketchFlow, I believe, for that. Yeah, that's what I would do. So you can get the click count, and then you can also see the hesitation, the movement, and where they're going with their mouse. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, okay, great.
So I'm a developer in our team, and when we see this kind of from the developer side, this looks like really, really cool, and we want this, and
Yeah.
because it's all techie and cool technology. But kind of user experience people we have, they get scared because it's so very techy. Have you had experience of that scenario, and do you have any recommendations how to get people
them
going
sort of,
and start to have confidence in that?
Oh, sure. Get them sort of ingratiated into it. Yeah, I think the first piece this is what I would do. Take their sketches, scan them, and put them into SketchFlow, and wire them up, and then send it to them. Right? Like, so you're already sort of like you're making their sketches come alive, and so I would just like toe-tip them in with stuff like that, right? And then also too, like just sit down and do like simple stuff, because I think once they start to get the hang of it, it won't seem so scary, right? So like, sit down and do like a really simple prototype where you're just doing the navigation, right? The sort of like right click, navigate to, and now they've got something that, that works, that moves around. And I think, if you do that a few times, it won't seem so intimidating.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Hello? Okay. I'm actually asking a follow-up question to his excellent suggestion.
Yes.
If we want something like that, like we want some sort of more accurate click recording, or if we want to actually be able to record the session, That's great user feedback for the SketchFlow product. Do you know what website or who we harass at Microsoft? Preferably we can all get on now and start putting suggestions.
Well,
in.
actually, there's a few people. I think there's at least a couple product people here. Anybody want to reveal themselves? Yes, but I'll take that up to them and let them know, because it's great. It's perfect for this, and we could definitely use a couple of those features to record all that stuff.
Hi, so my question is, so we've been using SketchFlow for a while, and from Balsamic we kind of moved to SketchFlow.
Good.
The one reason is because it's SAML based, so you get like the sizing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the challenge is sometimes because of the styling, so it's kind of thicker.
Yep.
And when you put it in your styling, when the prototype got approved and stuff like that, and then the end user will see that there's still some space down because of like the thickness. Do you have any suggestion on how you can have like an accurate spacing and stuff to capture the what they really want at the end?
Oh, I see. So are you talking about like the sketchy styles and how it's sort of bolder than...
Yeah.
Well, so my solution is, if that's sort of giving, the client or the somebody the heebie-jeebies, I would just do simple blocks, right? Treat it like, like an actual wireframe. So you can get that exact sort of snap to point and all that stuff. And so you can do your, it sounds like you need like more of a grid layout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. But the thing is, because it's so thick, and then you lay it out to a real, like for example, WPF or a Silverlight, and then when you lay it out with the same grid, you will see some space at the bottom or on the side, just
Right.
for the reason of, I think it's because the thickness of the styling of the whatever sketch.
Yeah, the
font.
sketches. Yeah. I mean, either just use like a regular aerial and like the regular like sort of boxes and stuff like that, and just make like a basic wireframe without the sketchy styles.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Try that, and I mean, I think that would help. Or you can also too make your own sort of narrow sketch styles and just save them as a resource, right? So you can go in, modify all the sketch styles, save them as a resource in the resource library, and then you can do sort of like more thin. You'll probably, still have that pixel difference of the wave, but like it'll still be thinner, more exact, like, but still sketchy style.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have a suggestion to this whole mouse tracking thing that someone mentioned earlier. There's an actual app called IO Graphica. It makes these crazy graphics.
Oh,
It's
nice.
free.
Oh, cool.
It's actually for art, and what it does is it just tracks all mouse movements. You turn it on and it tracks it.
Yeah.
And then if you stop your mouse, it'll leave like dots, and they get bigger the longer you wait, and it'll make circles around things you click on. And we found that it was actually fantastic in seeing how people interact with websites. You just tell them, okay, install the app, takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then play with the website for 10 minutes, turn it off, and send me the picture.
Oh, yeah,
And
no,
then
that's
you see
perfect.
where they navigate. And it also told me, for instance, that when I was working in Photoshop, I had positioned my content in the wrong place. I kept doing this crossing motion all the time.
Oh, cool.
So it's just called IO Graphica, and it's
Oh, yeah.
like a 2-second install.
Well, send it to me, and I'll put that on my website too. That's really cool. Thank you. Anybody else? Other stuff?
So speaking of the product and features, has SketchFlow sort of gotten away from the idea that it's specifically for prototyping? Now that they're introducing testing and you can log users' interactions and all that kind of stuff. When it was introduced maybe 2 years ago, it was, this is just to display concepts
Sure.
to the user. And even the concern that was just brought up a minute ago, you weren't really supposed to convert it directly to XAML and say, okay, that's our grid layout. It was, this is the overall very like 10,000 foot view of what the app is supposed to do, as in gestures and how data is presented. But this is nothing with the actual aesthetic design. We're not going to convert this directly to, okay, this screen's been okayed and now we remove the sketchiness. but the buttons are there and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
has Microsoft moved from that vision?
Well, so like for the first piece, for like the testing and stuff, so for Silverlight 5, we put a bunch of stuff that makes this stuff actually a lot easier. So I'll be able to kind of update all this stuff, and you know, that Silverlight 5 automates a lot of the testing stuff like that. So this will get it incredibly easy now. And then 5, I think we just a couple days ago put out there. And then I believe so. And then also too, I think, yes, I think that we started SketchFlow with it sort of like, you know, hey, you know, chunk it in there, use it, learn with it, and then, you know, it's not, you don't always move forward with it, but I believe, and of course I'm not at fully liberty to say, but I believe that yes, that we are obviously investing in growing SketchFlow so it can expand and grow and be more. Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, but have you had any experience with Balsamiq, I think
Yes.
it's called? And can you kind of compare the two products?
Well, you know, last time I checked, Balsamic's great. It just, you know, it doesn't have like the sort of nuts and bolts that you would need to actually, you know, take it, you know, and use it again and, you know, move it forward. I think that would be the big critical difference. I mean, yeah, like the graphics and their little sketch styles are fabulous. But yeah, I think that, you know, this is obviously within Blend. I mean, it's so much more robust that, you know, if you want to do some heavy lifting, it just wouldn't be with Balsamiq. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Balsamiq definitely more towards just the prototyping, and it kind of eases like the pen to paper situation? More mock-ups, really? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, I see Balsamiq as the same thing as like a sketch, like a quick, like, this is my idea, and that's what I would think, you know, I would probably be doing in Balsamiq, like slap, slap, slap. Okay, this is my idea. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to, you know, get that sort of feeling, right, the motion, how it tastes, I would use SketchFlow. Yeah. Cool. Other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. And of course, I'll wait and answer any more questions you guys have and everything. But hey, thanks for coming to Mix. I'm glad you guys were here. Thanks.